Shalom. Call halal Yahweh by Shalom Shai by Hashem Rakak. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen that look like the heathens. And to the Akwath that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this video is going viral. It was on clips of it were on TikTok yesterday. I actually used it in a lesson, and then we turned around and also used it in the live show. Right, this is the Hal Turner Radio Show, and basically, he's giving you a different perspective or the truth about the war in Ukraine and what's really going on over there, and how America has, and the MSM, mainstream media, has completely fabricated, what's really going on, who's the cause of it. And when it all comes down to the Lord is the cause of it, because he's putting the hooks, which I'm about to read, back in into the, to Gog and Magog, man. All right. He's going to, eventually gather all these nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat. All right, this world war is on the verge of breaking out all over the world. All right, you got in the Far East, you got the thing going on between Taiwan and China, which could bring the whole world into that. You've got Russian troops down in South America. Who knows what they have over in Cuba, and then of course America and NATO has been surrounding Russia for years now, which is really the real cause of this whole situation. How long are you gonna allow people to encircle your house with loaded firearms? Every time you look on your cameras or look outside, they're in the front, the back, and the sides, and and then before you retaliate or do something, that's basically, America is provoking, but it's the Lord that's behind it all. So I'm going to open with this scripture. Let me read Ezekiel 38. And it reads, starting verse 1, and it says, "And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog and the land of Magog, and the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." All right, because see, the Lord is not with them either. This is all a part of that house divided, Satan being divided against himself, and Esau, Edom is Satan. They are the adversary. That's what Satan means. All right, it's not talking about the left hand side spirit or the angel Satan. It's talking about the adversary, which is a man. All right, that human adversary, which is Esau, Edom, the counterparts of Satan here on earth. All right, the Luciferians, the enlightened ones. So they think. All right, and it says, "Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, and the chief prince of Meshach, Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal." All right, and so what you got to understand too is that Meshach and Tubal isn't in that land, in that Far East region in Eurasia anymore. They will move the melanated people who were Japhet, all right, have been far removed from their land. All right, just as the Lord still refers to Israel, the land of Israel as the Holy Land, or as Israel, but it's very well known that Basra, the house of Basra, the Edomites, are the ones who occupy that land. So the Lord doesn't acknowledge who's there now. He's calling it by the lands that he named it in the beginning. All right, and that portion where those Edomites in Russia are, that was Japhet's land. All right, just to make that clear. Okay, and it says, verse 4 again, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into the jaws, and will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, every great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords." And as you can see how the Russians and all the allies have been maneuvering armaments, all over Russia, into the borders, into where the hot spots are in Ukraine. Ukraine was always a part of Russia in the past. Okay, same way that Taiwan, has always been a part of China and and then these people in the West try to control other people's stuff. They never keep it at home. All right. Matter of fact, let me go get that real quick. That's in Habakkuk. And then I'll go back to this. And then I'm gonna literally let this video play. All right. But this is Habakkuk 2. Yeah, Habakkuk 2 and 5. And it says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine his policies. All right. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death. He brings hell and death, hellish conditions and death everywhere he goes, this so-called white man. All right. And it says, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. And he always wants to control all the nations and all the people, and mainly their resources. Okay? So back to Ezekiel 38. I think we were at verse 5. Yeah. And it says, purge to Ethiopia, Libya with them, and all them with shield and helmet. So all these nations are joining on, and many NATO nations and allies are going to join on too. They're all going to come against the West. It's literally going to end up being America and the fake Jews that are in Israel against the whole world, and they're going to get annihilated. For what is written, it says, because basically the world is starting to see Esau, Edom, America, the West as the problem. The so-called white man here in America, but literally worldwide, because wherever they go, they do what they do. And it says, and Gomer and all his bands, in the house of Togarmah, the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, prepare thyself, for thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, be thou a guard unto them. So they're going to be a guard unto all these nations joining. Are going to guard and fight with Russia. All right, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so let's and this was prophesied. These scriptures were written thousands of years ago, and these prophecies are coming to pass right now. We're living in the last moments of the last days. Okay, so let's let this play.
I'm not making a dime off of this because it's demonetized, because I can't get it monetized for reasons that aren't really important. Basically, the SBU, when they took over my accounts, they took over like my Google AdSense accounts. And because of my current circumstances, I can't create a new one, all kinds of hassle. And so basically, this channel that you're watching, I'm doing it for free. And so anyway, I just want to say that up front, because I want you to pass around this video to as many people as possible. If you're an American, okay, this is for the American audience, and to a lesser extent, the European audience, but the American audience exclusively, as a priority, by the way. You see, I want you to show this to every single American that you possibly can, so that they can understand what is about to happen to them, okay? And what is about to happen to them is an escalation of this war here in Eastern Europe. Now, the mainstream media, for you guys in America, you watch the mainstream media, and it seems that, the Ukrainians are winning against the Russians. Yeah, it's only a matter of time, right? Although lately, if you're paying closer attention, you seem to see, wait, things aren't going so rosy for the Ukrainians, right? But anyway, the mainstream media is saying that they're basically winning, and that's a complete lie. That is an utter and complete lie. Every day, the Russians are chewing up more of the Ukrainian armed forces. They are killing off or wounding over 1,000 men a day. A day. And this is from Ukrainian sources, okay? 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers are either killed or captured or wounded in a way that makes them not combat effective anymore. That's 30,000 men a month. It is credibly estimated at this time that there are possibly as many as 70,000 dead Ukrainians, 70. And the low end of...
And you know what? I have to interject. That also makes sense why they keep sending billions of dollars over there in aid, because they're trying to build them up and keep paying soldiers and things of that nature to come in. If they were winning, they wouldn't need to send them all that aid. All right, that's why they keep saying help Ukraine. And of course, the Biden administration is also trying to protect the business interests that he has over there personally. You know, the whole laptop business with all those different labs and whatever things that he and his son had going on over there. All right. And of course, the Russians were in the way of that.
Of these estimates is 45,000 killed. Killed. The total Ukrainian armed forces before this combat began on the 24th of February was 230,000. If you take the low end of the estimates, over 20% of the forces have been killed. And that's the low end of the estimates. Killed. Forget about captured and wounded. The war is going catastrophically for Ukraine. The Russians are relentlessly winning. And they are going to take over huge swaths of territory of this country. Because I'm in Ukraine right now. I'm in the city of Kharkov. I hear, rather, the shelling every day. And the shelling gets closer every day. The mainstream media is lying to you. The Russians are winning, definitively. And because they are winning so definitively, and they have no intention of stopping, I mean, why would they? They're winning. Well, the Biden administration finds itself that they have put all of their chips on Ukraine, and Ukraine is definitively losing. It's quite frankly a miracle that the Ukrainian armed forces is still standing after the annihilation it has received. It is inconceivably horrible what has happened to these young men. And every single one of them is a brave man with a family, and they've died pretty much for nothing except the desires of the Biden administration. And now the Biden administration finds itself with a catastrophic loss, and so they are going to escalate. And the way it seems that they are going to escalate is by creating a situation, an incident in Lithuania. Lithuania, one of the Baltic republics, one of the members of NATO, well, the Baltic Republic of Lithuania has cut off access of Russian railway to Kaliningrad. Now, for those of you who don't know, basically, here's Russia, here is Lithuania, and over here is a little piece called Kaliningrad that's on the Baltic Sea. Now, this was captured in the Second World War, but it's detached from the mainland of Russia. Lithuania is between them. And Lithuania has had an agreement, a long-standing agreement of over 30 years, that they would never impede any train between Russia and Kaliningrad. That they would basically consider that train like a corridor that could go back and forth between Kaliningrad and Russia. And now they've cut it. And now they are making moves in terms of moving troops. Now, Lithuania has a microscopic army, but the Polish army is also on the move. The Polish army has been making moves on the Belarusian border. All of this leads me to conclude, realistically, that at this time, there is the intention by NATO to provoke the Russians into defending Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad, it's one of those areas that's armed to the teeth, okay? The Russians have all kinds of weapons there. The actual territory of Kaliningrad, right? They're not really worried about it. That's not the issue. The issue is Russian territory is going to be attacked by the Lithuanians and the Poles. And what are the Russians supposed to do? Just, sit there and take it? Of course not. They're going to hit back, and they're going to hit hard. They're going to hit harder, much harder than they've hit Ukraine. Why? Because the Russians consider the Ukrainians a brother people. Lithuanians, they're just foreigners. They don't care about the Lithuanians. And the Poles, same thing. I mean, the Russians and the Poles have hated each other for going on 400 years, okay? And so now it seems clear.
That's that Satan against Satan, right? Mark 3:25. Matter of fact, let me grab that since I spoke on it. This is Mark 3:25. Right, and it says, and if a house be divided against itself, all right, and a house meaning a race of people, it said a house being divided against itself, that house cannot stand. All right, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And that's what happened to the house of Israel. When the house of Israel divided, then you had Jerusalem and Israel. Well, we fell as a people. Same thing is happening to the so-called white man right before your face. This is prophecy.
That Lithuania and Poland are setting up the conditions to provoke Russia into attacking one or the other or both. And this will draw in all the other NATO states, including the United States.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the brains behind this idiotic idea are American brains, the Biden administration. There are crazies in the State Department and in the US Senate and in the Biden administration itself. They all want war with Russia. And they're sick and tired of pussyfooting around using the proxy of Ukraine to fight against the Russians. And so they want to have American troops fighting directly against Russians. This will be a catastrophe, and I will explain to you why. Because you see, the Ukrainian armed forces were NATO trained. NATO trained approximately 10 to 12,000 Ukrainian troops every year for the past 8 years. Mm-hmm. That is, approximately 80 to 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers were trained to NATO standards. NATO standards in terms of tactics, maneuvers, communication, control, everything. The Ukrainian armed force was the largest, best equipped, and best trained NATO army that has ever been fielded. Man for man, it was better than the American armed forces, and that's the truth. They were certainly better motivated because, after all, the Ukrainian soldiers, well, they're defending their own land from the Russian invaders. So they're better trained, better equipped, and more motivated. And they have been annihilated.
Wow.
What do you think will happen to Lithuanian troops, Polish troops, or American troops that go up against the Russians? They're going to be annihilated too, especially because the Russian troops at this time, what they have been doing is that they have been rotating all of their troops constantly. They've only put in, at any one given time, about 190,000 troops. At this time, it's estimated that they only have 130,000 troops. But their entire army of over 1 million men has been rotated through Ukraine. They all have combat experience, hardcore combat experience. They're going to annihilate the Americans. And this is where the danger comes in. I don't care how much you love the American flag. I don't care how much you say that America #1 and best equipped army and all that bullshit. The fact is they're going to be annihilated by the Russians like that. And after, the Biden administration, out of panic and out of a cavalier attitude that it's no big deal, they are going to use nuclear weapons. They are going to do that. The United States has never taken off the first strike option from its menu of options insofar as a military conflict is concerned. The Russians have. The Russians have stated definitively that they will never use nuclear weapons on a first strike basis. Never. Only in response to a nuclear attack. But the Americans have never made that promise. And the Biden administration, it doesn't know how to take a step back. It doesn't know how to wind it down. It only knows how to double down. And the Biden administration is clearly creating a provocation in Eastern Europe with Lithuania and Poland against the Russians, goading the Russians exactly as they goaded the Russians with Ukraine. Because remember, the reason this war started, and this is something that the U.S. mainstream...
Okay, let me interject here and bring out a scripture. This is Obadiah 1:5, and this is why the Americans are so headstrong, because their pride have deceived them. But this is Obadiah 1:3, and it says, "The pride of thy heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, and saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?" See, they didn't think that they could be defeated. And them left-hand side demons that they pray to, when they are doing all their adrenochrome rituals and stuff, has been lying to them the same way that the evil spirit did in the book of Kings. When it lied to King Ahab and told him he was going to have victory. The same thing is happening to these devils, and they're going to find out the hard way that they've been played.
mainstream media will not tell you. The reason this started was because the Ukrainians had gathered their army, over 100,000 combat troops, in the Donbass, and they were getting ready to invade the Donbass and potentially invade Russia. That's why this war kicked off on the 24th of February, because the Ukrainian armed forces were going to invade the Donbass and Russia in mid-March. And
this war was started mainly to hide the fact that that the dollar was crashing, that America was falling. Same thing with the demic. All right, it was the same thing. All of it was a ploy to distract from. You got to remember, the dollar was already collapsing. We were already in the middle of all sorts of bubbles bursting, credit bubbles, housing bubbles, student loan bubbles, and now every damn bubble. And you also had we were also in the middle of a retail apocalypse. Don't forget that we were in the middle of a retail apocalypse where thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of stores were shutting down all across America, and America was going down. They needed something to distract and something to blame it on. So along came the demic, and after that, when that got exposed and didn't do what it was intended to do, it just made things matters worse. They kicked off this war.
And that's the truth. That's a truth that is being hidden from you by the mainstream media in the United States, but that everybody outside of the United States and the Western European news bubble knows.
And see, now you can see why the rest of the world knows the reasoning that this wasn't started by Russia. The rest of the world knows, including America's allies, which eventually are going to turn on them. All right, this is Jeremiah 50, and I'm gonna start at verse 1, and it says, and the word of Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations, and publish and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken. Bel is confused. See, they confused, man. All right. Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken to pieces. So, like I said, all those left-hand side spirits are not answering them the way that they were. And they, matter of fact, they sent the message through that CERN, and basically the message came back from CERN letting them know that it was pretty much a wrap on them, that their time is up. Okay, it's the end of their time. It's the end of the age. All right, the age of Esau, Edom, the age of the so-called white man is done. All right. I just watched a video where Jake was walking down the street in Thailand, and all you heard was the Thai women screaming BBC, and that's pretty much what the world want. The women of the world in the other places want. All right. Only people that don't want to really get down with the so-called black man is black women here in America, not the ones elsewhere, but a big, huge portion of them here in America. Except for those wise, those few women who are intelligent enough to know and have the spirit in them to know that their salvation is going to be connected to the men of the Lord. All right, but the rest of these women, they're gone, man. All right, they're gone. But it says, let me read verse 3, Jeremiah 50:3. For out of the north there cometh a nation against her, which shall make her desolate, and none shall dwell therein. And they shall remove, and they shall depart, both man and beast. And in those days and in that time, saith Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, and the children of Judah together, going and weeping, and they shall go and seek Yahweh their power. And that's happened. We're in the end of the days, and the northern and the southern kingdom has come back together, the elect of them anyway, because all the tribes, aren't together for that. Well, you know what? Some of the tribes are coming together on the carnal side too. But spiritually, Ezekiel 37 has pretty much come to pass. And so the end days and the end times are playing out. All right? For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. It's Jacob's time. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Abashai Ba'Shem B'Kak B'Dash Wa Abba Babal Kwam Yasharala Shalom.